Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Torah Sat, Torah Tzamech, Chilek Aleph. We have already shown how the whole process works. Some people who sleep their lives away, Tzaddik wakes them up with Tzipur Maisiyat. Either they didn't fall so much from within the 70 years, if they fell from all the 70 facets of the Torah, and beyond 70 years, these people wake up. Once they wake up, the dibur, the speech that was closed with them because they were asleep, bursts out with great strength. The further away they were, the bigger, the more pent up that dibur is by them. Then with a greater force is unleashed when they start talking to Kodesh Baruch Hu. That koyach, that energy is being given to Klei Yoloda, the organs of reproduction, which leads to barren women being able to give birth. They give birth, there's a big unleashing of Yira in the world. And with this Yira, a person is able to enlarge his days, day by day, hour by hour, more and more and more. And then he's able to a status of zokein, of oldness, true oldness, which, as we said, is the crypto wallet of great, great wealth that enables a profound understanding into the deepest studies of Torah. Then we showed the last time how this entire Mahalach, the Torah goes the other way, it goes from the end to the beginning. From the Tvonas Torah Oracle, the great introspecting to Torah, then to wealth, then to crypto wallet, all the way like that. So then we showed last week how this entire thing is embodied in the union of shofar. Shofar is in of Yira. It starts narrow and ends up wide. It is widening the days and so forth and so on. We went through this whole thing, and now the Rebbe shows how this entire concept is embedded, cloaked in a story that the Gemara tells us. That story has, a certain shot, of the, what is the story telling us? And then the Rebbe showed us that inside this story is alluded the entire Torah we learned until now. And we start with that period. This is what's said in the Gemara in Likutey Moharan. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. The Rebbe said, Kol Yomov Shel Oisa Tzadik. He's talking about Chony Hameagel. Chony Hameagel was a great, great, great Tana. And he says in his entire days he was anguishing over this particular puzzle. Shira Malus B'Shuv Hashem and Shiva Sir Nainu Kecholmim. Going what we say, Birkas Hamazon, we say it in the days of don't see Tachnun. So he said, Shiva Sion, was talking about the Babylonian exile that was 70 years. So he says, when we come back, David the Melech says, it's like waking up, like we were dreaming, like we were waking up from sleep. So, being that Chony Hameagel knew that not a single word of David the Melech was uttered chas v'chalila in vain. So he says, Mi kadanam shivin shonim. How can David the Melech, a kin, coming back to Israel after 70 years to waking up from sleep? Is there anybody who can sleep for 70 years? Who can sleep for 70 years? So, Mishamayim, the story is going to tell us how, the Kodesh Baruch Hu decided he's going to show him that it is possible. Before he passes away, he'll show him how this is actually possible. There is somebody who sleeps 70 years in one go. So the story goes like this: Yom Echad Havikazel Be'ocha. One day he was going along the way. Chazi Alahu Gavra, he saw that man, a certain person, the Nota Charuva. He saw that he's planting a tree. It's basically a carob tree. Charuv is a carob tree. We said before there are many different kinds of carob trees, and the most nutritious carob trees of them all is the carob tree, which is called brosh, and it takes 70 years for this tree to start giving fruits. But after 70 years, when someone already gives fruit that has been worked on and prepared and fortified for 70 years, when it comes out, it's a gesinte fruit, and it's used many times, in the Gemara, and it says the Gemara says, Kol ha'olam kuloi, nizoin, the entire world is being sustained, bishvil chanina b'ni, in the right, the schus of my son Chanina, that's Chanina ben Dosa. So the big tzaddik, the entire world is eating, because on his merit. And because it says, Chanina b'ni, and my son Chanina, dailo b'kav charuvim, it's enough for him to have, a little amount of charuvim, Shabbos to Shabbos. It's all he eats from Shabbos to Shabbos. That's it. But nevertheless, even though, he had a very small portion during the week, nevertheless, this carob tree this charuv is called brosh, is nutritious enough for a person to live on that alone. Chazal Gaba, they're not a charuv. So that person was planting this tree. Now we said this tree gives fruit once in 70 years. Once you plant it, takes 70 years to give fruit. Amalei, so Chony Hameagel told him, Mich de charuva, don't you know that the tree of Charov, this one, ad shivin shnin lotoin, it takes 70 years for it to actually to load up with fruits. Pshitolach dechayes shivin shnin, is it so obvious to you that you're going to need to live another 70 years? And you're going to eat from those fruits? I mean, what's going on? What's your, how's your math working? So that person answered him, I found the world. I came to the world. I found the world with carob trees already grown and giving fruit. I came to the world. How did it come about? He says, who planted it? He says, my ancestors planted it. He says, the same way that my forefathers, planted it for me, I know, this is the way that I'm planting for my descendants. So, okay. So Rabbi Yochanan said, Yosef, he said, he said, and he ate bread. Asi l'shinta. And he became drowsy and he fell asleep. Chony Hameagel fell asleep on the side of the road. Vinim, and he fell asleep. V'hadra le'meshunita, and a rock grew around him. V'yichsim eino, so nobody could see him. Nobody passing on the road. Nobody saw him. He was surrounded like a cater. He was in the middle. Nobody could see him. So nobody saw the person was sleeping there. V'naim shivin shnin, and he slept for 70 years. Kikam is when he got up, he woke up. So how does he know for how long did he sleep? The calendar didn't have whatever it is. How do you know? Maybe a month, maybe something. He saw a person that is eating from that carob tree. It was planted before he fell asleep. Omale, so he asked him, Yadat man shatra leucha, do you know who planted this carrot tree? Omale, he told him, Abu de Abba, my father's father, that was my grandfather. He's the one that planted it. So Omar Chony Hameagel said, Vadai naim yeli shivan shnim. So bevadai, I slept for 70 years. While this was going, he saw his donkey, the kayaldale ramchi, that for 70 years, gave birth at, offsprings and offsprings. And he said, whole row of donkeys and donkeys upon donkeys upon donkeys, 70 years. Now, because he went there, when Chony Hameagel went on the road, he was going in his car, riding his donkey. When he fell asleep, okay, 70 years, what the donkey's going to do for 70 years? It had donkeys, had more donkeys and more donkeys. The Gemara continues, if the Rebbe doesn't bring it out, that Chony Hameagel, he came to town, he came to Besmedrash. Nobody recognized him. His entire generation was gone. So every question that was asked, any kasha was asked in the Besmedrash, he answered them. I mean, like, wow, they were all blown away. I was like, so they asked him, who are you? So he told them, I'm Chony Hameagel. Come on. That's what I'm talking about. We know 70 years ago there was a Chony Hameagel disappeared. Nobody knows where he went to. But you, 70 years later, you come around and say you're Chony Hameagel. And there's nothing he could say to convince them. Nobody looked at him. Nobody learned with him. Nobody was what? I have no idea. I mean, they probably didn't age, like 140. I don't know how old he was. So he didn't have to learn who to learn with, because nobody would learn with him. They figured, he's, not from here. So Chony Hameagel said, "O chavrusa or mislusa." Either you have a chaver, you can learn with the chaverim, or he said that this is better than that. He says if a person doesn't have any friends, doesn't have to learn with, he says death is better than that, and he passed away. In other words, it was actually his time already when he went and he saw first went with his donkey and he saw the first person planting that was the end of his life. Lamaise was supposed to pass away, but Mishamayim, before he passed away, they're going to prove to him that it's possible to sleep for 70 years and to wake up. What happened? He fell asleep 70 years. He woke up and he realized what's going on. Okay, and he passed away. That's the story of Chony Hameagel. In this particular story, this entire Torah is embedded, and this is how it goes. Chony Hameagel was huge. He knew all the 70 facets of the Torah, everything. So he came to Besmedrash afterwards, any kasha that would ask him, he would answer them. He knew everything, the nigel, the nista, the whole thing. So he came to the Besmedrash, any kind of kasha, any kind of question, difficulty that Rabbana had, we would explain it to them. There wasn't even a single facet of Torah that was hidden from him. He knew everything. Today, maybe we have like 3 or 4 facets of the Torah, like from the Rishonim, the Rosh, the Rif, the Rambam. Each one maybe has a little shita. Some you have two facets, some have maximum 4 or 5 facets. That's it. You say 70. There were 70. Nigla, Nister, everything, every single pasuk, every single word, every single. Chony Hameagel knew the whole thing, the entire 70. We lost them all. As Baruch said, in the future, the Torah will be forgotten from Israel. And we will know the halacha, we know what to do. But what is the reason? What is the fact of the Torah? This will be lost from us. How is it possible that the person will sleep 70 shonim? In other words, how is it possible for a person to falter into an aspect of sleep from all the 70 facets of the Torah? Completely, like even though it's possible to falter, to stumble from one facet of the Torah from more or more, how is it possible to fall from all of them? How is it possible? He saw in this part of the story, he saw that man that is planting a carob tree. Omale, it's so obvious to you, you're going to live for 70 years in Achad Minah, and you're going to eat from that. And he says, is it so clear to you that you will live for 70 years and you will eat from it? So Al Pipshat, he says, you're going to live for so long that you're going to eat from the fruits of this tree. But the Nister, what we are learning according to this Torah, he says, Yechorov, Karov, Ze Pchinas Zokin. This is oldness, this is Rosh. This is the Pchinas Atik. The Rosh is that's the head, that's the very, very beginning of everything. This is Atik Yoimin. Ki Chorov hu Beroshim. We said Chorov is that character we're talking about, it's called Brosh, the Broshim. Shehu B'chinas Mordechai. Brosh is B'chinas Mordechai. As Chazal said, instead of the thorn, which is Haman, there will grow a brosh. Brosh Zeh Mordechai. He is the head of all the incense. Mordor, this is Mordechai. This is Mordechai. And Mordechai was an aspect of Pchinas Rav Chesed. We said within the 70 facets, that's the realm of this world. That's the realm of what we call Zeir Anpin, the small things. From Chesed all the way, to Yesod. We said this is akin to a court, it has a leeway, within the law. It can give you more, can give you less. But it can't just send you away, with anything. This Chesed, they like you, okay? So, if a person is found guilty, they like him, whatever it is. They say, okay, they're mitigating circumstances, blah, blah, whatever it is. So they give an easier sentence. They have that kind of leeway. That's chesed. Or chesed can do a gvura, they don't like him. It says, okay, they throw the book at him. But there's a limit to what they can do. Because either chesed or the gvura, right? But the chesed received, the Zeir Anpin, its root is in the kesed. The kesed is called Arich Anpin, the long face, the big face. Over there, this is before the constriction. Over there, it's not just chesed. There are also 10 spheres in Arich Anpin. There's chesed, gvura, tiferet, but over there, the chesed is called Rav Chesed. It's an unlimited chesed. Rav Gvura, Rav Tiferet. These are levels that beyond constriction, beyond limits. Mordechai is Gematria, exactly Rav Chesed. When we want to bring down the Ashpa of the 13 traits of Rachamim, Kippur, Tanis, and whatever it is, 13 meters of Rachamim, they come from the sphere of the Kesed, of Rav Chesed. They are the root of all the Rachamim. We say Hashem, Kel Rachum V'Chanun V'Rav Chesed. Because we're talking about the level of beyond time. That's the story. That's why, Rav Chesed says, what is it? Hashem Kel Rachum V'Chanun. Hashem said, V'Chanot Yasher, I will pardon whoever I'll pardon. V'Chanot Yasher Rachim, I will have mercy on whoever isn't going to have mercy. Which means, I don't care. He's guilty, he's not guilty, whatever. Whoever I want to pardon, I will pardon. No law is going to stop me. And Rachmanis on somebody, why? Because using a Rav Chesed. Mordechai is exactly Gematria of Rav Chesed. As we learned before Purim, Haman came from the 50th gate of Tumah. Moshe Rabbeinu only received Mem Tes Sharatum, the 49 Shar Kedusha, Shar Tshuva. The 50th gate Moshe Rabbeinu achieved when he left this world. But Haman, because of the great balagan that happened during the time of Achashverosh, that the Jewish people married Goyish women, they fell to a point that in the tomb of the 50 gates of Tumah. Once they fall there, it's not allowed. That's why Am Yisrael was Mitzrayim. There were 49 gates of Tumah. Because Baruch Hu brought them out of Mitzrayim quick, before they fall into the 50th gate. Why? Because if they fall Chas v'Chalil 50th gate, they're going to come out again. By the way, they ask, the question is, what is Kadosh Baruch Hu? Mir Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu hurried to take them out. We're on the way to Pesach now. So on the way, what do you mean he hurried? So they say he hurried. He says their leaven, did not, their dough, did not rise. It did not leaven. How long does it take for dough to rise? 18 minutes. Shamsi said 25 minutes. The most make shita, which means Am Yisrael was 18 or 25 minutes away from never ever coming back from Mitzrayim. Because otherwise, why don't you wait? Let's say what took him a week before, a month before, a year before. What's the problem? Let the dough rise and make yourself bread. Why do you have to make a massive quickly? Don't even let the dough rise.
But 80% of us not make it out in anything.
That's with everything else. So we're 18 minutes away, 25 minutes away, 20 minutes, whatever shit you go. This is how far, how fine the margin was. It was a cat's whisker. But in Babel, it was too late. I mean, they fell into the 50th gate. That's why there was no way to, to get him out.
By going to the festive meal,
Couldn't be going.
just by participating.
That was the Makeh Patish. So Mordechai knew, as we spoke at length the year before Purim, he knew everything was going on. And he tried, he went to Moshe Rabbeinu, he went to the Ovas HaKadoshim, he went to everybody. No way. So Mordechai brought the Geula from the 50th gate that will come, the Osid Lovei, from Mashiach time. He brought the schus of Mashiach time, which is the 50th gate of Kedusha. Haman wanted to hang him on a tree that is tall 50 cubits, right? Because the 50th gate of Tumah. So Mordechai brought down Rachamim the 50th gate of Kedusha. How could he do it? Because Mordechai personifies this Atik Yomin, this Pchina Saba, is the level of Rav Chesed, not just Chesed, Rav Chesed. This will be revealed only, in the by the Losid level. So Mordechai is Pchinas Brosh, because he is the head of the Besamim, more drawer. Kach lecha Besamim Rosh, take for yourself Besamim Rosh, head of Besamim, the spitzel, the best of Besamim. The main thing of Besamim is more drawer. That's Mordechai, this Brosh. This is Rav Chesed, because Mordechai is Gematria Rav Chesed. He personifies this of Rav Chesed of Atik, and the Pchinas Mordechai. He says Mordechai Chasab B'Kinas Shavim. Shehu B'Chinas Atik. Mordechai is 274. numerical value. Rav Chesed 274. And that signifies Rav Chesed, we say this is the level of Atik. That's a level of Chesed. It's a level of Atik Yonim. Hainu Shiro. What we learned now in this story, that is simple, simple pshat. So somebody, planting a tree. What you do, you think you're going to live another 70 years. And what he's telling him is as follows. We learned is that when a tzaddik wakes up a person from stories from either 70 years or beyond 70, Shani Kadmonius, from beyond 70 years, he has to be very careful that somebody who is not worthy should not hear his dvarim. In other words, you will hear it, but it'll go in one ear and go out the other. Because the Talmud has to be a Talmud Hogan, to be a befitting student. So this says, what is a befitting student? It says like, when somebody is telling somebody Torah, is teaching somebody Torah, is like writing. The shiny in my tongue is etzofemai. It's like a quick quill that is written on the heart of those who listen. Written in the mind, it doesn't mean anything. Easy come, easy go. But if it's written on the heart, it means the person is involved emotionally with what he's learning. He's interested. Then you remember. So the tzaddik is very so it's like you have to be very careful. This is when you write certainly writing film on mezuzah of Torah, has to be written on a parchment that is made out of an animal that this type is kosher. It doesn't have to be this particular behemoth has to be kosher. In other words, maybe it can be an avail or whatever it is, doesn't matter. But it has to be either a cow or a deer or these are the kinds or sheep. It cannot be from a skin of a behemoth that is tmeir, that is tummy. That there's no way this animal can ever be kosher. Writing on top of that, divrei kodesh is out of the question, not allowed to. Which means the tzaddik has to be very careful to learn, to speak and tell these stories that are waking up. Only people who, by themselves, they might be in a tough spot spiritually, whatever. But initially, they're willing. They are bechino of muter lepicha. All the kosher animals is animals who are basically allowed to be eaten. A Jew is allowed to eat that kind of animal. But if somebody is b'chinas talmid that is not hagon, that is corrupt, but he's not even interested. He wants to hear, I want to hear some, fascinating things. I want to I want to hear some, make my mind busy, whatever it is. But he's not really interested in waking up the way it's Hashem. So he is like a skin of a tumadik animal, which is now you're not allowed to write any film, mezuzah, Torah on it. The same thing when the tzaddik is teaching his Torah, he has to be careful to teach a student that constitutes in his actual being something which is a skin of pure animal, like a mutar lepicha that is allowed. You're allowed to eat. You have to consume that kind of animal if it's kosher. So we said before that the Rebbe said that there is a way to make sure that when you learn with Talmidim, that your words will not be engraved on the hearts and the memories of those who are not befitting. How? When you teach them with the kavanah of lilmon, with the lamed, to teach, to learn and to teach, lishma, to keep, lasis, and to do alakayim, and to give. When you learn like this, your whole kavanah is to bring about that people will keep it, not the people being like, wow, this guy is like, whoa, man, he just knocked it out of the park. He's so smart, man. Forget about it. When you learn, take it and deal with it, do it. Don't say like, wow, so deep, amazing. That's not the kavanah. So when the tzaddik teaches like this, the words are not written on the heart of Talmud that is improper. So this is what they're asking him. He saw somebody who was planting a charov. This is stories Mishanu Kadmonius, Rav Chesed, all the way from Atik. He saw somebody who is telling Sipurei Maisius, tales of Shon Kadmonius, of beyond time and place. Wow. It's an amazing madrega. If a person is teaching somebody who is not befitting, who is not worthy, the higher the source of the stories, the more damaging it can be for the person who's teaching. So it's dangerous enough to tell stories of within the 70 years, which is the lower madrega, just chesed, not achred, just chesed. So if the Talmud hears it is not roy, and whoever teaching it is not, I'm so be careful, he can get damaged, but not that much, because there's a limit to how. But if somebody is telling Sipurim Ma'ases Mishanim Kadmonius, it's a much higher madrega, and somebody will hear it. Somebody who is not worthy will hear it. Oh, wow, what great danger you're going to be in. So he saw somebody who's planting a charav, and now he's telling stories, Mishanim Kadmonius, from that Atik. And he says, Shem Chinas Atik. And he asked him, it's so easy, so clear to you, the Chai Shim Shnin, that you have enlivened, you used to enliven, to wake up from 70 years. You woke up people. You have experience already. You woke up people from a slumber, using Sipurei Maisis from within the 70 years, the Lower Madrega. And he saw that it works. And Talmidim that are not proper, we're not within the unsafe ground. Did you already win the Pchinas Dibur? As we said before. Because we said that in the Osches that Dibur is Pchinas Chaim, the Adam Shem Chayo, Ruach Memal Hayo. Chony Hameagel asked this person as follows. From Bachanta.
He was telling stories.
Yeah, that's what the Rebbe says. That is alluded to within the story.
He's telling stories.
Yeah, by planting charov. Yeah, that's Atik. That's Rav Chesed. So you said.
Planting the herald tree is telling the story.
Yeah. That's the those charov is Pchinas Brosh, Pchinas Mordechai, Pchinas Rav Chesed. So he said, did you already try? Did you already experience of waking up people by telling stories of within 70 years? Whenever you have a paint stripper, they don't say, try on a hidden corner. It's not going to be a big balagan. See, how do you call it? Hidden place? What do they call it? On the jars of paint stripper. Before you use it, try on a little corner that people don't see. What do you call it? Well, you test on a little something that people don't see. That if you do a boo-boo, there won't be such a big damage. So did you already try? Did you already have an experience that you woken people up with stories, with the lesson stories from Bikev Shonim? In other words, and you are able to eat from them. In other words, you told them to Talmidim that are all kosher Talmidim. That ma'amuta leficha, they're allowed to be eaten. In other words, they're kosher Talmidim. They're like writing on a cloth of a kosher behemoth. That which is allowed to be consumed is allowed to be eaten. As we said before, this is a hint for proper Talmidim. They're like cloth that comes from a kosher behemoth. That your words were already heard. It's not a small thing. The words are heard. Talmidim hagunim. The Talmidim, when Talmidim are befitting, they're tzaddikim. When you speak, then the words are heard, and you're waking them up. Otherwise, okay, they hear this is like, wow, this is unbelievable. You're such a deep person, unbelievable. Wow, I'm so impressed. And then they go, and nothing happened. Because you already try it out. You already have the experience of trying from a lower level, and obscure place to see everything is working out. How are you practicing to tell Sipur Maisis from such a high source? So Shalom Kadmonius, it's yesteryears, it's beyond time and place. It's a big danger. If a Talmud that is not Hogon, it's not Pchinas Amuta Lapicha, it's not allowed, not fit for consumption, as it were. It's not 100%. You'd be damaged, Chas v'Chalila. If you tell Maisis, you already have experience of Shalom Shalom, but said, all right, it's the next step up. But you're already going for Shalosh Kadmonius. Did you try within Shalom and you saw that they listen, everything's okay? And those that are not befitting, they didn't hear, they didn't remember. Did you try it to hear it? How are you busy going with such high things? Going on a high wire act, without a safety net. Did you try it before? Maybe it'll be heard by Talmidim who are not proper. Did not consider something which is allowed to be eaten, allowed to be consumed. You already tried, you already proven to wake up through Sipur Ma'aseh of within years, the lower level, and you say, okay, it works. Say, no problem. I'm able to keep myself. Be careful. Only people supposed to hear will hear. This is within 70 years. This is between the 70 facets of the Torah. Did you try already within on the lower Madrega and you were successful? And you were successful to wake them up from their slumber to this? Why they woke up? Because your words came, to students that are befitting, that are, Talmidim Agunim. Shem B'chinas Amunot Al-Ficha. Shem B'chinas Shivim Pelatorah. Did you manage to wake them up? This is what he says. You're so sure that you live for 70 years, and you'll eat from them. You'll eat from the fruits. In other words, you're able to tell stories from within 70 years. And it arrived only by Talmidim who are worthy of him. You're able to eat from it. In other words, kosher Talmidim. Now you were so successful. Now you want to deal with stories from Shonim Kadmonius, from way, way, way above that. Shem Sipurei Maisis Shonim Kadmonius. This is Sipurei Maisis. This is stories from beyond time and place. How you're not afraid? How you're not shaking in your boots? To tell stories from such high places. Did you already try a lot of places and you were successful? Maybe students are not befitting will hear it, and the damage is going to be great. How dare you? That person answered as follows. Ana alma becharubesh ashkachte. Ashkachte is a pchinas shichacha. I found the world in Charube. Ashkachte. In other words, I taught it already. Whenever he says, even when I tell stories from beyond time and place, Shem pchinas charuvim. This is Karev. This is Brosh. This is Rav Chesed. This is Mordechai. Can tell stories from there, from that source of Atik. And I can bring about a level of forgetfulness. Anybody who is not worthy, was not befitting, he may hear the words, but he'll forget them. Because I learned in such a way that it should be practical, so you'll be able to mimikayim that. So, Tamil not going to be not interested in this. They want, the hyperbole, they want the philosophy, they want whatever they do, the gymnastics. That the unworthy students, they will forget about him. And so before, the tzaddik is oisek when he is working to wake up the people by Sipurim Isis, HaKadosh Baruch Hu guards him. He learned in the proper way, and will guard him that his word will be forgotten from Talmidim that are not worthy. As we learned before in Os Zayin. Okay, the very same way that my forefathers planted me, the same way I planted, for my child. In other words, the same way that he gave birth to me. I was gave birth to me. Remember, the tzaddik wakes up the people who are asleep. It comes to Koach HaDibur. Koach HaDibur, people who are asleep, the Dibur comes out. It comes to Bat Chonei Ador, which is the procreation organs. And then it becomes L'Hati Pe'akoris. And they give birth. It's a big year. So the same way I came into being, how did I wake up? How did I get up to start saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How did I start saying, whoa, what's going on with my life? Until when am I going to, frit my time away, on nonsense? I woke up. How would it be? Because, I was woken up. There was a person who was asleep. The tzaddik woke him up. His dibur came out with great strength, and it resulted with my mother giving birth to me. Big Yira came to the world. The same way that my parents planted me, I'm planting my children, my own children, with the same way. The same principle of untying the mouth of the mute. Where Mises wakes up people, they start calling out, that's untying the mouth of the mute. It brings about it brings about the untying the mouth of barren women that will give birth. You said before, when you wake up people from their sleep, is what we said before, the spiritual sleep, their mouth gets open. To untie the mouth of the mute. And they can speak before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And this dibur that comes with great strength, because it was pent up until now, it comes to Bat Chonei Ador, the generation that constitutes the spiritual kidneys of creation, which is a part of the procreation system. And this is the thing that brings about birth in the world. B'tochen Kodesh Baruch Hu brings about the birth. I also, planted for my, from my much of meaning, through this that I tell Sipur Maisis, Gam Ken Noladim Boneno. This is how our own children are being waken up like this. I tell it to people, I wake people up, they start going with a great force that brings about, because Sakaras, the children are being born. Perish. And Nothing explains. He told him that he has to say stories for Shona Kadmonius. Why? Because he needs to, barren women need to give birth. In the same way that my forefathers, were busy with Sipur Maisis. And this is the thing that brings about the birth. And that's how the Olido Oti, this is how I was born. Same way, I have to give birth to my own children. Telling stories from Shani Kadmonius, and the whole process will go until they will be born. The main birthing is being about through Sipur Maisis canal. Okay, the way that I was planted by my fathers. That's the way that I plant my own children. And then it says, let me take a look. Okay, Gemara says the story. He took a piece of bread, he washed, made a bracha, and ate. Chony Hameagel. And he fell asleep, right? So he had his meal. And by eating, we said before, what is the thing that puts a person into a bechina of slumber, of shena? So one obviously way was obviously, taivas, vices and averis and so forth and so on. But it says the Rebbe says there's some people that are beautiful and kosher people. But when they consume food that is not 100% purified to be consumed by a Jew properly, they fall into a bechina shena, Sushi is good, whatever it is. The wasabi is fresh or is not fresh. The steak is this steak or is this steak? Was it marble line? Not marble line. Okay. Anyhow, so and it's through the eating of Chony Hameagel, ball of Shena, he fell asleep. And the Rebbe explains, in other words, the eating of Chony Hameagel was so perfect. It was so perfect. In Chony Hameagel, according to his level, if his eating was not 100%, on the dot, he can fall to a certain aspect of sleep according to his madrega. Is through eating. When a person eats something that wasn't purified, we said a person can fall into spiritual sleep. He thinks this world has what to offer. A rock grew around him. This is, it was surrounded with rocks. Sivuvim, with dimyonis, with imaginations, with fantasies, with thinking of what was, what will be. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, maybe it will be, maybe it won't be. Who knows? Whether the whole mind is surrounded with dimyonis. Is when a person is asleep. This we said. A person falls asleep. He's on asleep and he's in the beach, and his mother comes out riding a camel behind the lifeguard's tent, whatever it is, in this end. Suddenly he comes, whatever it is the dreams do, it's like a.
Why didn't he eat the food then?
What?
Why didn't he ate?
He said, no, he didn't charub, he had his own bread. But the Rebbe said that according to the Madrega of Chony Hameagel, he fell into a bechina shena. This is not, don't mix the pshat of the story with the remez of the story. Pshat of the story is one thing. The remez of the story is that he says that he ate a bechina kivayochol, that the food or the achila wasn't up to par with the level Chony Hameagel. So he fell into a certain level of sleep according to his.
Isn't that the pshat of the story?
No. Besides the story, they fell asleep. He ate bread and he fell asleep. Now we're talking about within that pshat is a much deeper nistar. That by eating something which is not 100% fitting or not the kedusha that you need to, you fall to a bechina of dimyonis, of fantasies. So he said he fell into that. What?
I was talking to the other guy.
No, I don't know. Again, you're mixing up the pshat and the remez. The whole thing now you're talking about the eating of the level of the remez. I don't know what happened with Gashmias during that particular time. That's not.
When he wakes up, he's going to talk to his son or something.
Okay. So he says dimyonis. Then he says dimyonis that comes around time. But nobody knew. Yeah, and he was asleep. Because this rock surrounded him was about pipshat. Remez, he was awake. In other words, he was learning, he was davening, whatever it is, but spiritually he was really asleep. Nobody knew. It says the oilam doesn't recognize anybody who is actually sleeping his life. He looks like he's davening, he's learning, everything is okay. Nobody knows that he's reading like in a fantasy land. You see, it seems to him that he's busy with what we're doing, learning and davening. The whole thing is El Chayid is a tzaddik, and look at him. The whole thing is one long dream. He's asleep. He's totally asleep. He's sleepwalking. When he woke up, because the Rebbe says that the tzaddik cannot awake you if you don't want to. If you don't do the first step, it can be a small little step. You want to wake up. You want to. If you don't do that, the tzaddik can talk until he's blue in the face. Nothing will happen. You have to start. It's sort of like Kamisa when he started a little bit from his own. Let me tell you, he saw a person eating from that charuv, and he saw him, being busy telling the story. He is atik, the ochel mehem, and he ate from them. In other words, he taught it only to proper students. In Amuta Beficha was 100% the way it's supposed to be. Do you know who planted that charuv? Do you know who planted that curb? I said, do you know who planted this brush that from what time? You know from what time the story stems from? He says, "Caption somebody tells a story that already was. And באמת, לא היה כי לפני איזה 4 שנים, maybe it was 4 years ago. This is why this דווקא 4 years ago. Okay, there's a deep shot in Papa to Chacham explain why dafka ever since 4 years. Man, 4 years. I was 2 weeks, 4 months. Dafka 4 years. So he said this is of the spheres, Chacham being that's whatever it is, it's Shaganed and Orch Tzadikim. Anyhow, Omalei, so that person answered him, Abua de Haba, my father's father. Who's my father's father? Grandfather. What's a grandfather? It's Atik, Zokin, right? He says, I know it comes from there. And Pchinas Zoken, Pchinas Atik. Now the answer to him, Sipur Emaisis, Shul Segben, Sipur Emaisis, Shul Sholim Kadmonians of yesteryears. Shul Pchinas Zoken, Pchinas Atik. They come from beyond time and place, from the Kesser. Oma Vadai Naimili Shim Shninin. Chony Hameagel said, Bevada slept for 70 years. In other words, Bevada he fell to sleep from all the 70 facets of the Torah, which is Shivim Shonim. Because he had to hear Sipur Emaisis of yesteryears, of beyond time and place, in order to wake up somebody who fell from all this. The Chazan, when all these processes were finished, Chazal Lechamra, he saw his car, his donkey, the Kayaldale Ramche, hordes and hordes of donkeys. And a Prince Ashiris, by Issachar, Shabbos Issachar. So it says, Issachar Chamar Gorem. Issachar is akin to a donkey with very, very strong bones. Donkey, more than practically all other animals, has a very, very strong bone. Why? It can carry a lot. I don't think pound per pound there's anybody that can carry so much that a donkey can carry according to how much it weighs. So it has very strong bones. So it's a Issachar who was very, very rich. He says, the Yaakov Avinu, because it's Chamor Garam, Yaakov Avinu akins him to a bony donkey. So the Targum says, what is a bony donkey? He says, Atir benichsin, has so much wealth that he needs hordes and hordes and hordes of donkeys to carry all his gold and silver. In other words, when he saw that his donkey gave him, many, hordes of donkeys, many hordes of donkeys, means that he got tremendous ashiras. He woke up, he was a Pchinas Zokin, the Pchinas Atik. Zokin is already, we said, that's the crypto wallet with which you get this ashiras that has no end, right? But once he got through the process, he woke up, everything was okay. The result was, he saw his donkey, which tells about wealth. The Yaldel Ramchi, he had hordes and hordes and hordes of donkeys, and it was tremendous wealth. There's a Shepchinas Gorem, because through this, that brings about tremendous wealth. If you through the Sipur Emaisis of yesteryears, you wake up from the sleep. This brings about Lahati Pe Ilmin. People start talking to because you have tremendous diburim. Lahati Pe Akoris. You untie the mouth of a chorus. Now, there's an Isgala year that reveals the year. When any woman gives birth, gives tremendous year. For somebody who couldn't give birth until now, wow, it's Bevalde, tremendous year. The year on that year enables a person to widen his days every single day more and more and more and more. More kedusha, more kedusha, more kedusha. That's called arichas yomim. That's called longevity. That's called long years. Pchinas zokein. This is old. This is oldness, proper oldness. Pchinas tikunei atik. That's a tikunim, rectification that is done in atik yomim, in pchinas keser. That brings about wealth into the long days. So we can either finish this now or when something. Let's take a little longer and finish with Hashem this mimer tonight. Now the Rebbe says the whole thing, how all this that we learned now is included in the very first words of the Zohar in the Idra Rabbah. The Shem Bar Yochai said, Es Asot Hashem, and this is how it's built into this. Pasar Rav Shimon B'Omar. This is the very beginning, we learned that. Es Asot Hashem B'Chulei. Now it's time to do Kodesh Baruch Hu, something extraordinary. What is it? To reveal Torah that has never been revealed before. These are tremendous secrets. That Torah dil Eila de Mitbatla. If I don't reveal these secrets, the Torah dil Eila, the secrets, the Torah of Atik Yomin, of Prinas Atik, is going to be cancelled. If we don't make this rectification of Atik, that Torah of Losid Love of the future is not going to be. It's not going to be revealed. This is the supernal Torah, the Torah we don't have yet today. This is the great insight that a person gains as a result of this entire process. Great wealth enables a person to have this amazing insight into Torah that we began the Torah with. That kind of insight cannot exist. It cannot subsist. If it is not brought about through all these preparations of these tikkun rectification of Atik. As we said before, alpha base.
He's revealing the Zohar to save the situation.
Yeah, he brought that. That was the limud that he taught. He taught with them. He told them, and he repeats it. We already said it a few times. When a person, this is tikkun atik for every one of us means every day you try to widen your days in kedusha. That's l'mais tachas l'mais. This is how it's done. And it's continues. How come I'm revealing this? I mean, it's not something that is proper to do. It's extraordinary time. He says, one side he said, fortunate you are, Israel. Who is like you? Who is like you? Israel, nobody's comparable to you. Hashem, who is comparable to you? So Israel is incomparable. Nishboch is incomparable. So Am Israel is zoiche to hear the secrets of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Am Israel says, Mi kamocha, you wake up, you want to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What is it? From Mishamayim HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes the source of the Eilo. This is the praise of Am Israel. Who Israel, you are incomparable. Why? Because Am Israel awakened from below. That's Ashrecha Israel mikamocha. Fortunate you are, Israel. Who is like you? Why? Who's like me? Why pretty? No, because you wake up. You want to, wake up to get closer to Kodesh Baruch Hu. You want to hear the Burah of the Tzaddik. Oh, wow. Who is like you? Who's you? Incomparable. You do that by source of the Leilo comes the awakening from above. Who is like you in the God is in the mighty is you, Hashem. As we said before, a person cannot wake up unless he starts on his own. And then Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was Mesader himself, his son, and his Talmud in such a way that was sitting in a certain way, and that way of sitting included this union of Tikkunei Atik. He called Reb Lazar Brei Rabbi Abba, and he says, Anan Klal Dekola, we constitute the totality of everything. And Obchinas Shlemus Yira, we constitute the perfection of Yira. Me, my son, and my Talmud. Because we said when we learned that a person has to have Yira Shemaim in three bechinas. Moira Shemaim, Moira Rav, and Moira Avim. In other words, you have to ponder the greatness of Kodesh Baruch Hu, and you have to learn Torah with great Yira, this Moira Rabcho. So everything that you learn, you want to be Mekayim. That's not important. Chas v'chalila, everything you learn with Yira, because you're the Mekayim. And Moira, Avim, this is the son, talking about the money, this is the Yerusha he gets, whatever this is, you're supposed to have money with Yir Shemaim. First of all, do business, don't touch somebody else's penny. Don't touch it. That's point number one. Point number two, get rich, b'vakasha. The tzaddikim get rich not because they want money. They know money is nonsense, but they need to get rich because they need to get this insight into Torah. Avram Avinu, it says, Avram zoken baba yomi, Avram was zoichet to zikno, baba yomi, Vashem berach es Avram bakol, because Yisrael blessed Avram with everything. He was a multi-billionaire. Why? Because he needed it, because he was zoichet b'chinas zoken, he got the crypto wallet, he got the ashiris, same thing with Yitzchak. What does Yitzchak need all this money? Yaakov Avinu, he bought this, he bought Shechem, he gave the whole. What does he need all this money for? Because the Tvunas HaTorah Emko. This is how you make money, and of course the enough tzedakah. This is the. You be careful to give tzedakah. Al Cheshlemas Yiro, Shal Pchina Shloisha Kovim, Mora Shemaim, Mora Rav, Mora Avayim, as we said before. Nimtzo. So therefore, it is found that through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he represents the Rav. This is Mora Shemaim that the Rav has. Pondering grace of Kodesh Baruch Hu. He represents that line of Europe. Rabbi Yosef, his son, represents Mora Avaim, the fear that the son has his father's money. Otherwise, that's the Yira that's to do with the money. Abi Talmidoi, Abba was his Talmid. This is the father of Chia Godol. Abba, he was his father. He was a Talmid, Mora Rav. Learned Torah with great Yira. So the three of them constitute the three lines of Yira. Greatness, part of greatness, learning Torah with Yira, and monetary Yira, in every single thing, anything fashion. Through the three of them, that constitute the shleimus of Yira. That's a perfection of the Yira. And that brings about Arichos Yomim, the longevity, Pchinas Zoken, Pchinas Tikunei Atik. Ishtiku. They were sitting there and they became silent. Shamokal. And then suddenly they heard a voice. It means, in other words, with this, the Rebbe says, it alludes to all those that until now were in a bechina, in a level, in existence of shtika, of not being able to speak. Bchinas ilmim. They were mute. They were sleeping their days. Those who couldn't speak until now. And the bchinas sheino, suddenly shamokalo. Suddenly they heard a voice. What is this voice? This is the waking up from the sleep. Suddenly they hear the voice. What's going on with you, man? You're really living life now. This is not a general rehearsal to life. This is life itself. He says, fortunate is he who is zecher to speak on an ear that they actually listen. And then bring about now that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai was revealed this email of Sipurei Ma'aseh B'Shalom Kodmonius. They awaken from their sleep. Their knees were knocking one against the other from fear. What is the knees knock one another? This is a euphemism for Iloda, for giving birth. That's the physical coming together. Knees knock to knees. It was said, first of all, there is a dibur. This is zivu garuchni, because in spirituality, when one higher sphere is becoming one with the lower sphere, it is mashpia to the level of the lower sphere. This is zivu elyon. This is zivu asfasayim of the dibur, and then that leads about to zivu gagufni. So they search it because it is by waking up from the sleep. It is to untie the mouth of the mute. That brings about this is knees knocking against knees. This is the Pchinas HaKoresh. The Pchinas Zivur and Shikin. That is a coming together of the Shikin, of the kiss, of the lips, which is the Dibur. That precedes the coming, the run of the Zivur Gufni. That comes afterwards, and that brings about another. My column. What voice did they hear? It says, Kala dechnufia elodim skanti. the voice that they heard before, they were Prinashtika, they were mute. They hear the voice of Sipurei Maisis. That's the heavenly entourage. That's Sipurei Maisim Shonim Kadmonis. That's what they heard. That this is what the Torah is enclosed, their own panim, their own face is enclosed, so they're able to receive it. Because when it's cloaked, it's called kanaf. Your teachers will not be hidden from you anymore. Kanaf is, and you cover with your, bring me in under your wing. Wing is something that protects. There's something that hides.
Shelter.
Sheltered from within, but hidden from without. Hidden from without. Your teacher, Kodesh Baruch Hu, will not be hidden from you anymore. He won't be cloaked. He won't be behind the wings that with the clothing. In other words, he will not hide his face from you anymore. And by cloaking Kodesh Baruch Hu, dimming the Kodesh Baruch Hu until you can receive. A person is being awakened from his sleep, and then he starts speaking. That who owns the wings, he is Yezochet Dibur, Yezochet to clothe the 70 facets of the Torah, Hakol Kanal, the way that we said before. And when the Rebbe finished the Torah, he said that there's 3 things that he said in this Torah that is not like the Olam says. The Olam says that how do that Mises, when he tells stories, it puts people to sleep. How do you put the little children to sleep? Tell them a story, tell a story. They fall asleep. He says, no, you wake up through the story message. It's like they said through the message, there's no Hayloda. It is so on and so forth and so on. Okay. With this, well, I'm sorry?
What's how the last thing is?
Bala Knafaim Gadol. There's the through the Knafaim. The Knafaim means that the tzaddik takes the Torah that he wants. The wings is the covering. V'lo kanef od morecha means because Baruch won't be covered from you anymore. So kanaf is something that is a euphemism for hiding. So it says Bala Knafaim. It says that Islapshus, the tzaddik, when he tells you the stories, well, the stories that themselves are like wings, they're like cloaks, they're the clothing that hide within them the kind of story that you need, the story that you need to wake up. Because if you told us exactly upon it, you wouldn't just go in one eye and go out the other. It has to be dafka mislavish in the story, so just go in. You want to notice, like, hey, suddenly you wake up. What happened to me? You don't know what happened to me. So when you are cloaking the panim of the Torah in Sipurei Maisis, which is kanaf, which is wing, our person starts talking to Kodesh Baruch Hu. And Kodesh Baruch Hu will mizakeh to speak to Kodesh Baruch Hu and beg him, so the Burim of the Tzaddik will get into our ears. So we finally wake up. Because the degree of waking up upon waking up upon waking up upon waking up. Ashreinu matram chalkeinu. I think that this is sure number 21, I think.
These are super emotional.
Everything that goes around here is Sipurei. Everything is cloaking. This and everything that Likutey Moharan is. It's a story within a story within a clothing so it finally can get into us. What can I tell you? Baruch Hashem, have a good Shabbos. Preparing for Pesach, Pasha for Chodesh. Hashem, be mischadosh with Hashem. Hashem to learn. We'll see. Maybe next time we'll learn. Torah Zayin Chelik Beis. What do you say? Okay, we'll see. The next week. Kol Tov, Chazak v'nitchazek. Kol Tov.
Do this sleep for so many years. How long do you fall asleep?